From the heart of Broadway, welcome to this Playbill podcast, a production of PlaybillRadio.com. Many fans of the Stephen Schwartz musical will readily tell you that Wicked rocks. But it's never rocked quite like this, as the latest Elphaba on Broadway releases Wicked in Rock, a 3-song collection that includes 2 songs from the show reworked as rock anthems. There's also a song from We Will Rock You, the Queen musical. Robert Viagas paid a visit to Kerry Ellis to find out more.
We're sitting here in the star dressing room of the Gershwin Theater with the lovely Kerry Ellis. And we're sitting just a few feet away from a huge bowl of green makeup, pots of green makeup, and a bottle of Midori, which is a lovely Elphaba green also.
Gift, though. It's not. That was just a gift, I must say. From actually our boss.
It looks unopened. So.
Yeah, it is. I don't drink during the show at all.
Purely for decoration.
It is.
Okay, we're here to talk about the fact that now you as of June, you've been Elphaba here on Broadway.
I've been playing it for the last year and a half in London, and literally I've just transferred. I literally finished in London on the Saturday night, flew out here on the Monday, and started here on the Tuesday.
You had begun as understudy and acceded, right, to the role?
Adina came over, obviously, to open the show for the first 3 months, and I was always employed to take over the role 3 months into the show. So yeah, I've been playing it for a year and a half in London, and now 5 months here, and then 5 months back in London. So I've done quite a bit of Wicked at the moment.
You've been very Wicked. I'd like to talk about the differences between the two productions, the differences between playing Wicked here in New York in the original production and playing Wicked in London.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like doing a different show. I mean, it's so strange. Just even the slight differences in the set and how the audiences respond. And I mean, working with different casts is kind of what I'm used to anyway. You know, if you're doing a new show in London, you play with new casts, and we've just had a cast change back in London. So it's not so much the cast, but the audiences and the venue and the backstage runs. You know, I had no idea where I was going, and people were coming on from different places, so it was all very confusing. But it's been great because, as I said, I was playing it for a year and a half in London, and to bring a new life to it for me was really exciting and something new. So very well welcomed.
Which theatre was it at in London?
The Apollo, Victoria.
So that's a huge theatre.
It's huge. It's about, I think it holds about 2,300. It's quite a big one, yeah.
And you were actually in the largest theatre on Broadway, almost 2,000 seats. It's 19 and change, I believe, but it's not quite as large as the Apollo, I have to say.
No, just under. But you know, but the space here, backstage here, is a lot bigger. We have a lot less wing space. The set, I think, is very, very similar, apart from just things are slightly different places, and just a slightly bigger audience in London. But the audience is closer here as well. They seem very. They almost seem on the stage with you, which is, you know, I can see faces, whereas I can't see anything in London. So, but it's nice. It's nice to see the differences.
Do audiences themselves respond differently? I mean, it's such an American story. It's written a little over 100 years ago, and it's set in Kansas, and it has, well, I suppose they have scarecrows in England as well. But there's something very American about that whole story.
There is, although the Wizard of Oz is worldwide, isn't it? And I think everybody knows and appreciates it just the same. There is a difference in the response from the audiences. I think the London audience, they kind of, because especially Elphaba is written with very sense of dry sense of humour, so the audiences in London like switch onto that straight away. But the audiences here seem to be more familiar with the references to the Wizard of Oz. I don't know whether that's just because they relate to it more here, or whether, like you say, it's an American humour. I don't know. But still, it goes down brilliantly in both cities. I mean, I can't. It gets a roaring standing ovation in both cities, so it's a seller, definitely.
Now, of course, L. Frank Baum wrote the original,
yeah,
but
London, actually, it was written in London, I think, when he was actually in London.
Is that where the famous filing cabinet was? He had a filing cabinet that went A to N and O to Z, and when he was trying to think of a name for his land, he just picked the bottom drawer.
I think it might have been. I know that the book was actually written in London, so could well possibly be.
And I was about to say he wrote the book, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, but of course the Wicked is based on a book by a different author, just his take on some of those characters. And if you've ever read those original Wizard of Oz books, of which there were a lot.
There were a lot. I haven't read them all. Some of them.
Very different from Mr. Maguire's Oz.
Yes.
Mr. Maguire's Oz is a much more political place, and Elphaba is a much more political character. Now, tell me your take on her. Now, there's L. Frank Baum, Maguire, and now Ellis.
I don't think I can quite rate with them, but
when you step out on that stage, you're creating your own version of that witch.
Yeah, I mean, I just try and play it as honest and true and that I can, and tell my story as Elphaba. I think, you know, she's so raw and she's so she's dealt with all these prejudices for so long that what comes out of her is kind of uncontrollable, and especially in the first act when she's a little bit younger. It's kind of all she is a teenager and it's just happening, and she's shouting and she's screaming, and then in Act 2 she does kind of learn to contain and control her experiences and her emotions. But my take on it, I mean, it's a very political show. It's very it touches everyone, and that's why the audiences are so there's so many different people come to see the show, from young girls, young boys, to couples, to families, to everybody comes and enjoys it. And I think it's because everybody can relate to the show in some way or another, with the relationships or the stories or just an incident throughout the show.
Well, actually, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. You grew up in a little town called Stowmarket, right? And what part of England is that?
It's East Anglia, Suffolk. It's like on the map. It's the little bump on the end. So right on the east.
Norfolk and Suffolk.
Norfolk and Suffolk, yeah. I've lived in London for about 15 years now.
Closer to the Wash or closer to the Thames?
Closer to the Wash. You've done your homework.
I know a little bit about England. I wanted to ask though. Now, part of what makes Elphaba tick is the fact that she's green and she's grown up green, and it's not like there are a lot of green people around. Without going into a lot of detail, I mean, part of how she becomes green is part of the mystery of her character, and of course. There's a surprise at the end of the show, which we'll not give away. But she grew up funny looking, and she grew up being made fun of and sort of hated, and that's kind of goes into what she's part of what she is. Now, this doesn't seem like this is something that you had to go through. What was it like growing up in Stowmarket? What was it like for you?
You know what? I've had, a lot of actresses and people like to have their tragic life story and their upbringing and their stories in this. But I actually had a very good upbringing. You know, I had a great supportive family, an older brother that we used to fight, as young siblings do. But I had a very, very good upbringing, and was lucky that my parents supported me and led me on to do what I wanted to do. But I think what you're getting at is the fact that Elphaba is, she's had a tragic lifestyle, but she kind of gets on with it, and she just does her thing, and she's very headstrong, and that's why I think people can relate to her. All kinds of people relate to her in one way or another, and her relationships with other people. I think that's why it's so successful, and why people love her, and why I get so many letters, and people write to me a lot saying, you've touched me, or we love the show, or the show's had a lot of impact on us. I get a few letters just from all kinds of people, and people that wouldn't even write fan mail usually I've had letters from, and people just so touched and touched by the story and touched by the character, and it's wonderful. It's great.
Well, I was actually going to ask later on, but we can do that now.
I've done it.
It's very much a fan show. It's very much a repeat show. There, especially for girls, although I know that both genders are interested in the show, are interested in the legend of the show. You say that you get letters. What kind of things do people ask you?
all sorts. You'd be surprised. A lot of people just, they like to kind of just say that they've enjoyed the show or that they've related to the show in some way, whether it's, they felt like an outcast at school, or they've related to a relationship, like in the show where, there's the one with the wizard, or with Glinda, or Nessa Rose, or her father. There's so many different elements to the show, and I think it's why it relates to so many people, and it does reach out to people on all levels, and I think that's why it's so successful. Even people that haven't seen it yet, will love it. They can't not. They will identify with something.
Did you have a chance to work with Steve Schwartz, Joe Mantello? I know you were in the theater at the same time as Idina Menzel, the original Elphaba. What kind of things did they tell you about playing Elphaba? Did they give you advice, or did they just say, make it your own?
Joe's really great at kind of...
Joe Mantello, the original director.
Absolutely. He's really great at letting it come from you. And I think, especially because I was the original British Elphaba, I think they wanted a new spin to it. Medina had been playing it here for a couple of years. So I think the idea was to get a new life or something different to bring to her, which I hope that I've done. I just tried to reach inside and just be honest and tell the story, and it happens for you. It's so well written, this show, and the music is just phenomenal. It just happens. You don't even have to try very hard. You just live it, and it happens. I mean, the set, you have to just walk into the set, and it's like running around in a playground. So we just play the game every night, and it's fun. It's enjoyable.
But just nuts and bolts thing. I mean, did she tell you, make sure the hat doesn't ride down too far? Or did he say? Or did Steve Schwartz say, save your breath for that big note because you're going to need it?
Well, they do. They do kind of advise you not to blow everything, because Wizard and I is such a brilliant number, and it's almost like the 11 o'clock number at 8 o'clock, and they do kind of say to save it a little bit, because otherwise you go and blow the first number and then you've got nowhere to go. So it is about slightly containing and then rolling through to Defying Gravity, and then to No Good Deed. It just builds and builds and builds. So I think it's about pace, this show. It's tough. It's definitely tough.
We're going to go back to Stowmarket for a second.
Really?
looking at the list of things you've done. You've done We Will Rock You. You've done Les Miserables. We played Fantine. You've had one. You played Svetlana in chess. You've had one big note part after another. What was it like? Did Stowmarket have a high school musical? I mean, were you in the shows there? Were you Adelaide? What made you decide that you wanted to be in legitimate theater as opposed to rock music?
Well,
not that you've had to make the choice, actually. Come to the
Well, I think as a kid I did everything. I was a very sport-orientated child, and
sport.
Yeah, I did. Trampoline and gymnastics, dancing, singing, everything, local shows. And then I think when I reached about 13, it was kind of trying to make a decision because of time, really. But I always knew that I wanted to go to theatre college, which I went on to when I was 16. I went to a theatre college in South London called Lane Theatre Arts, and from there I did 3 years of training, and then came out and was lucky to kind of almost go straight into My Fair Lady at the National with Trevor Nunn, and work with brilliant people straight out of college, I've been lucky. I've been very lucky.
And you got to play Eliza Doolittle.
I did. I did several times. But, I mean, what an amazing experience working with Trevor Nunn, so young. And I went on later to do a play for him called Way Beyond Blue, which his wife wrote, Imogen Stubbs, where I played Eva Cassidy, which was an incredible play. Maybe, hopefully, they'll revive it one day and put it on. But yeah, I've been lucky to hit big show after big show, really. And they've been so different, which is nice. The characters have been very different.
And you're still in your 20s. Now, what are you going to get to do? Are you going to be, what's next? A gypsy? Are you going to play Mama Rose?
I'm not that old yet. Oh, no, if that comes out wrong. I've had a great career so far, and if it keeps continuing, and everything seems to get bigger and bigger, and if it keeps continuing, I'll be happy.
All right, now I'd like to talk about the new album.
Yay!
Well, it's sort of an album. It's a CD that has 3 songs, 2 songs from Wicked, and 1 song from We Will Rock You, which was the Queen musical. Now, there's even though that's only 1 song from the Queen musical, there is a lot of Queen involved in this entire project. So now please tell me how the project came about, who worked with you on it, and also, is that CD that I was sent, is that for sale, or is this purely downloadable through the web?
It's for sale. It is for sale. You can buy it here at the Gershwin.
It's only at the Gershwin here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to go on iTunes, but it's just taking a while to get on there. You can also buy it online if you check out my website, kerryellis.co.uk. Little plug. You can get it. There's a link to buying it on there.
And tell us the title.
It's called Wicked in Rock.
Wicked in Rock. The first song that you hear is Defying Gravity. And there are people who love that song, who've listened to it so many times, and they're not... I think it frustrates some people the first time they hear it because the song kind of starts and stops. Yeah. There's a build, and then there's dialogue, and then there's kind of a build, and there's dialogue, and it doesn't really get to that big moment, the flying moment, until the very end. Your version is a little bit different. Can you describe it? It
is different. Well, I think Defying Gravity works in the show because of how it's written and the dialogue, and it works because that's the story.
It doesn't come to like an explosion, like everything's coming up roses until quite late.
No, but I think that's why it works. I think it's like building the tension and then a little bit of dialogue and then building the tension and then telling the story, and I think that's why it works. It's such a powerful ending to Act 1. But my version, I should say our version, I worked very closely with Brian May, who was brilliant and has...
Brian May of Queen.
Yeah, absolutely. Has been an absolute friend, mentor, producer. He's just been wonderful. And I think, Brian was kind of looking at the song and saying it needs to be like a song, like a full song. We can't ride it like that. So, with his help and his kind of rewriting, he managed to kind of put it together as a full song, and I think hopefully you've played it and you can see the result. Really, I mean it's huge. It's such a big sound, and I was lucky enough to have Brian play on it, and also Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters play drums on it, and also a 60-piece orchestra, which was just the best day of my life recording that. And I mean, it's been a great experience to work so closely with Brian. I mean, this has been...
Just to clarify that, you did say a 60-piece orchestra.
Yeah, it was huge.
Huge rock drums.
It was massive.
Huge guitar.
Yeah,
and at one or two moments, it almost seems like it's going to turn into Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, I think the song, it needed it. Because the song is so huge and the song has such a big following, it needed to have that power behind it. And I think that's why... we absolutely love it. I don't get sick of hearing it, and it's such a... You needed all those elements, and I think it also grew from when we recorded No One But You about 4 years ago now.
That's the song from... It's also on the same 3-song CD, Wicked in Rock, but it is not from Wicked. It is from We Will Rock You.
Yes, absolutely. We recorded that about 4 years ago, and the same thing, we did it with a big 60-piece orchestra, so we'd almost set the mark, so we couldn't then, not use them again. So it was kind of, it worked so well, and it kind of, the piece needed it. And because of the show already, it's already set in a very, with a big orchestra, so you need all those sounds. But yeah, I mean, I'm so pleased with it. I'm thrilled. But it is just the starter. It is a taster CD. I am going home to carry on recording with Brian, and we're going to have a full album out soon.
So Wicked in Rock is really, the 3-song Wicked in Rock CD is really kind of a teaser for a bigger solo album to come. What will we be hearing on that? Do you know yet?
Well, Brian and I, we've messed about with a lot of songs for a long time. Some new stuff, some covers, really all kinds of songs.
Show tunes?
Not so much show tunes. Kind of steering a little bit away from that, but big songs, big sounds, so that we can use my voice and use his big production and again, probably orchestras. I don't know if I should give it away, really. But, I've done a lot of concerts, as you know, and trying to incorporate elements of those possibly in a final CD. But it's definitely going with a more rocky edge, definitely.
Well, one of the things on the middle song on the album is I'm Not That Girl, which, of course, in the show is quiet but intense, sort of contemplative song. On the album, it lives up to the title. It is wicked in rock.
It definitely is. Actually, we did that first. We didn't even do Defying Gravity first. We started with I'm Not That Girl. Brian came to see the show the first time I was on with it, and he fell in love with that song initially. It touched him. I think he identified with the sensitive side of Elphaba and how the rest of the show almost identified with her saying I'm not that girl, and then her journey to what she becomes. So we actually worked with that first and finished that first, and then one day when that was all finished and done, well, I say finished and done, it was close to being finished, and Brian was like, I've got to have a go at Defying Gravity. I've got to have a go. It was playing on his mind, and then he came back with the song version as such, and we had to attempt it, and we went at it, and it took time because of the complexity of the song. It took time to do it, but we're both really pleased with the results and thrilled that people seem to be loving it.
How did you come to play the show on Broadway? I mean, if anything, if you had to put a picture of Kristen Chenoweth next to you and a picture of Idina Menzel, it might look a little bit more like Kristen, I would have to say. What made them say, we want you to do Elphaba on Broadway?
Well, it actually came about when we did the first cast change. After I'd gone in, I'd been playing this show for about 6 months, and we did the first cast change. And Joe Mantello came over and watched the opening night of the new cast, and it was at the party afterwards, and he said, to me, I'd like you to do this on Broadway. Well, of course my jaw dropped to the floor, and I was like, well, yes, of course. And these things sometimes never materialise, so I was just very flattered. And this was about a year ago happening, so I was just really kind of shocked, but just pleased that he appreciated what I'd done, brought to the role, and perhaps given me an opening to come over. So it really happened from then, and then talks happened, and here I am.
Was that something you had desired to do? Did you desire to play Broadway?
Well, I think everybody does. I've been lucky to play some great roles in the West End, and I've originated roles. I've played roles that have been around for years, and it was kind of the next step or the next thing to do, and I'm thrilled to be here doing it, and it's amazing. It's an incredible opportunity for me, and I'm loving it.
You're sort of our baby diva coming down the pike. We've seen Elaine Page come. We've seen Ruthie Henshaw come. Yeah. We've seen a number of British performers come to New York and sort of blow away the competition here. Are you friends with them? Do they give you tips? Did they call you up and they say, "Oh, you're going to New York"? Well, see, I can't do a British accent. Americans are not very good at doing the many accents of England. The more I hear, the less I'm able to do them. Did they give you suggestions? Did they give you tips? They said, you're in the sisterhood now.
Well, ironically, I came across Ruthie. I mean, Ruthie went to the same college as me years ago, and we've crossed paths several times. So we I know her a little bit, and I saw her a few months before I came out here when she was doing a skating show, an ice skating show in London, and I said to her, I'm going. She's like, oh, it's so exciting. You're going to love it. The audiences will love you, and just enjoy their reaction. Don't be frightened of it, because it's, like I said, it's slightly different in London. People are slightly more reserved. So yeah, it was nice to hear from her, and just to hear somebody go, yes, you're going to be fine. It's going to be great. Enjoy it. But other than that, I mean, I don't really know Elaine Page, or she did come to the chess concert, but I wasn't lucky enough to meet her. But no, yeah, maybe they're a little bit older than I am, and maybe I will come across them at some point, hopefully when I get back.
I left out Hannah Waddingham. I'm sure she'll be mad if she hears that I left her.
Yeah, Hannah. I know Hannah quite well.
She was I'm the editor of the Playbill Broadway Yearbook, and she was our correspondent on Spam-A-Lot last year, so I want to make sure to include her in that group.
Hannah, yeah, she's great. We know each other in London.
Now, I understand that you're playing Elphaba with an American accent. Or which American accent are you playing it with?
Well, yeah.
Kansas, Brooklyn.
Well, it's not really. It's a real soft. It's not New York. It's very soft.
Can you give me a sample for the radio?
Oh no! Now I'm.
Oh please!
I can't do it on command.
You're blushing.
I am. I can't.
You're blushing right down to your green fingernail polish.
I know. No, I think you're going to have to come and see the show. I can only do it when in motion.
I see. Did you have a chance to work with Stephen Schwartz, the composer?
Briefly. I mean, he came to see the show in London. I think he may have seen it when I was there, but not actually. Sorry.
Oh, that's ambient sound. I like that. That was the stage manager.
Yeah. It happens in all theatres. That's the same in London as it is here. I don't think he managed to see me in London. I can't really remember, but I think he's been over here. But also, I've spoken to Stephen a bit because of the Wicked in Rock, obviously, which he loves. I got a wonderful email from him saying that he's obsessed with 3 songs and that he loves them, and he has my blessing. I have his blessing to do them. So, he's been really supportive and lovely. So hopefully he'll come in and I'll see him a bit more while I'm here.
You mentioned email. I also wanted to talk to you about the web and about kind of the web fandom and the way the fans of the show kind of use the web to communicate. You mentioned getting letters. Did you mean letters or did you mean emails?
Both.
What do you feel about kind of the buzz on your performance on the web, the buzz on the show on the web?
Well, it's kind of the way that the industry is going. We can't fight it, or I think we just have to embrace it. Really, kids have such a knowledge of computers and how they work more so than most of us, I think, and that's how they communicate and how they communicate with us and with each other. And I think it's just them communicating to us, and I think you need to just embrace it. I get a lot of hits on my website and people speak to me through that, and I do reply through that, and I do reply to the letters. So it's just nice that people reach out and say that they're enjoying what I'm doing. You said earlier that you got correspondence from all people, all walks of life. The show does seem to have a special appeal to girls, especially young girls. Is this? Are you going to say? Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, I really have had. It does. But I've had letters. I would say, just as many from young boys to parents saying how the show's influenced their children or them, or what role models we all are for, or what the show is for their young kids, and what positive messages it's putting out. So I think that's why it's appealing to so many people, because of the positive messages it's putting out. Are there special things that you write to these kids? I was going to say special things that you write to young girls, but you said that that's not the only part of it. Isn't. What kind of things do you tell, especially the younger fans? It does have a positive message, but she does get killed at the end. But before that, yes, very. So. Well, I think the general message is about relationships and how people are perceived to be different, and to be honest, I try and put things on my website as general as I can, as what I'm up to and general responses. If I took the time and wrote back to each and every person that wrote to me, I'd never leave my house. But I try and put a signed picture in and, say a few words back, just a positive encouragement, really. It's more than a lot of people do. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. Okay. I did have one other question. What does it feel like to fly? It's like being on a playground every night. It's so good. Although I do want to go in the bubble. I've been doing this now for nearly, 18 months, nearly 2 years it will be when I finish here. So I'm used to flying at the end of Act 1, and it's great because I do get to kind of, soar out and see the audience, and I see the entire company, and it's great, at the end of the show, and you can see everybody. So that's fun, and you can see all the smiling faces in the audience, and jaw drops mainly. But yeah, I do want to have a go in the bubble.
They won't let you go in the bubble?
No! I haven't asked, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you
I hope you do
very
get a
much.
chance to ride in the bubble.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kerry Ellis is Elphaba in Wicked on Broadway. Her new collection of songs, including 2 from the show reworked as rock anthems, is called Wicked and Rock. We hope you've enjoyed this Playbill podcast, a production of Playbill Radio. For streaming Broadway music 24 hours a day, breaking theater news, and many more exclusive interviews and features, please visit playbillradio.com. From the heart of Broadway.